Hello, and welcome to the first episode of Bigfoot Fact or Fake. Throughout this podcast, we are going to take a look at a ton of different reports from people encountering a Bigfoot. I also want everyone listening to let me know what you guys think of each encounter, if it was real, if it was made up, or a misidentification, or whatever you guys think. You can email me your thoughts at Bigfoot Fake my email bigfootfactorfake@gmail.com. In this episode, we're going to take a look at two different encounters from my hometown of Sioux City, Iowa. These are not recent. These are fairly old encounters. Most of the encounters that I've seen or read throughout Iowa have all been fairly old. Nothing really recent, which not really a surprise. There's not a lot of forest land here. Most of it is crops, stuff like that. Report number one comes from the north side of Sioux City on August 9th of 1997. I'm not going to say names, addresses, anything like that, but this first report is from a tenant and the landlord. The landlord swears that a Bigfoot is playing in her backyard at night, and she even claims to have some proof. There was no proof, no pictures or anything given in this article. She says, "The last 4 or 5 nights we have heard branches breaking and there have been footprints everywhere." She's found 3 different sets of footprints, and she believes that it is an adult male, his mate, and a baby. She says it looks like they're always standing fairly close to each other. Seems to me like maybe they're kind of skittish, which understandable. She says she usually hears them from around midnight to 5 a.m., which would be the most time people are sleeping. She's never seen it, but the tenant says that he has. The tenant actually reported it to the Sioux City Police Department around 5 o'clock that there was a Bigfoot standing in front of his first floor window. He is claiming that the animal was taller than 7 foot tall with some reddish brown hair. He says, "I woke up about 5 a.m. and saw this huge thing outside my window. It had its back to me and I did not get a good glimpse of it because I did not have my glasses on. He had to squint to see it well, and then it just disappeared." Which, from that little bit, that little portion of this, I'm going to assume that the top of his window was right about 7 foot, and he probably couldn't see the top of the head. So that's where I'm getting the taller than 7 foot. The landlord comes back and says that she also believes Bigfoot is the one who's been letting her dog off the leash at night. She probably got an outside dog, and she said that my dog doesn't let anybody come near it, touch it, unless one of them is around her, which it could be a dominance thing with the Bigfoot. Who knows? It might just be that it's another animal. They have both admitted that it could be a hoax. They're still looking for proof, or they were still looking for proof. This was in 1997, obviously. They've been searching for other signs. They're not the only ones with footprints in their yard. So there must be other other people who've seen footprints in their yard on that block. And she said that there were some leading across the street, so maybe they crossed the street. I'm not really familiar with that area of where it happened on 17th Street. So I'm wondering if they're crossing houses from forest line to forest line, maybe. My only question is, did she really, or did they make a cast of the footprints, or did somebody take pictures? Anything like that. I'm also wondering if she did a little bit more investigating, just as the landlord, because just to make sure that it's not, somebody trying to break in or damage her property. Really, I just want to make sure that the property that I own is safe and not getting damaged or broke into. It sounds like it's an apartment complex. So, and I mean, I can see at the same time why she didn't. She might have been scared. There's tons of different reasons and what would be going through your mind at that point. But as for the tenant, like I said, I can only assume that the windowsill, the top of it, is at 7 foot, and he could not see the head. The height and the color, from what I've seen, checks out. So, I'm not saying that that's for sure what they saw, because I am no expert. I'm just a guy with a fascination for Bigfoot. But I'm thinking that it's Bigfoot, not 100%. In my opinion, I think it's Bigfoot. That's my opinion, or my thought. Let me know what you guys think. You guys think it's a Bigfoot? You guys think it's a hoax? Or you just think it's a misidentification? Or what's going on? Again, email me what you think of report 1. You can just put north side of Sioux City report. And the email was bigfootfactorfake@gmail.com. We got a second report back in 1970, almost 50 years ago. It is at Stone State Park, which, if any of you guys are familiar with Sioux City, it's probably the most forested area in Sioux City. So here's what the report says. It says, in the summer of 1970, being young and still interested in kissing the girls, I had a unique experience. We were riding around in my 62 Chevy convertible with the top down. On the edge of town there was a park, Stone State Park, consisting of roughly 1,100 acres, surrounded by farms and overlooking the Big Sioux River. Big Sioux River divides Iowa and South Dakota, for those of you who don't know. We decided to go to Lookout Point at the park, and it's just an area that overlooks the river. It was a beautiful summer night, and it was just light enough to see. They say they got there, and the girl I was with decided to take a blanket and place it on a flat spot about 20 feet from the edge of the parking lot so they could overlook the water better. To one side, where they placed the blanket, there were trees and bushes and just kind of not really a foresty area, but timberline kind of. There was another couple with them, and they were in the back seat. And they'd been there about 15 minutes or so, and they were on the blanket, and all of a sudden there was something in the bushes beside us screaming. It sounded female. He says the volume was mind-blowing. As they were running, the screaming seemed to be still directed toward them. They didn't even open the car door. They just jumped over since the top was down. He says, although we were only kissing almost right away and for about 35 years, he believed it had to do with babies. Thinking that it was the wrong time of year for us to be even thinking about it, and so they got screamed at, in trouble. He says, until now, recently Captain Kilmore, which I'm not familiar who this is, he put a link on sightings on some forum. When I went and read it, I think I may have found the answer to my thinking. Babies all these years. At the time, for about 35 years, it was just a sixth sense feeling. Her scream as it went on sounded like a human woman, except louder, with unbelievable volume and depth to it. He also says he believes that she heard the car pull up and was going to check it out from a safe distance. In August of 1974, there was a young one about 3.5 foot tall in a garden near there, and there was also a 7 foot tall one, which a 7 foot full grown Bigfoot would most likely be female. And he said what he heard sounded exactly like a woman, and he believes now that when she was sneaking up to check on the people in the car, she had a much smaller one with her, maybe a baby, newborn, who knows how old it would have been at that time. And he says that he thinks that she didn't know that they were laying by the bushes until they were pretty much on top of them. And he's thinking that she freaked out and was startled because of her baby, and there was something she didn't expect to be there. Like he says, he could be wrong, which, who knows? We don't know much about these creatures, so nobody really knows for sure. With that all being said, there really isn't much, I don't want to say evidence because it was a vocalization, but I don't know how to word this. It's tough to say what he heard. With them not knowing anything would be there, it might have been something as little as an owl. It might have been a mountain lion. It could have been another animal that we know about. In my opinion, I don't really know. It might have been, it might not have been. With there only being a vocalization and them not really seeing anything, it's tough to say if these guys actually saw or actually heard a Bigfoot, if this whole story is true. I don't know. I'm in the middle ground. I don't really know. What do you guys think? You guys think that what they heard was a Bigfoot? You guys think it was something else? Again, send me an email. You can put it in the same email if you want. You can make a different email. I don't care. I just want to get interaction with this podcast, I guess. For this one, you can put report to Stone State Park. Really anything to specify that this is the article that you are talking about. Those are really the only two reports from around my hometown of Sioux City, which, I mean, it's right on the river. Maybe they're following the river down. I don't really know. But if you guys listening have any stories about maybe you saw Bigfoot or your family members, please send them to me. I would love to read them. Again, all of this can be sent to bigfootfactorfake@gmail.com. I really want to thank everybody for listening to this. It's my first time doing a podcast type deal. I know this is short. It's not really a podcast, a traditional podcast, but that's what I'm calling it. If it's not a podcast, please let me know. But that's what I'm going with. These will get better, I promise, as I get more experience with the whole podcast type layout, I guess. But thank you for listening, and please stay tuned for the next episode of Bigfoot, Fact or Fake.